I think we can start now. I just heard Ajahn on a recording talking about how if one doesn't appreciate or doesn't know that the studying of Abhidhamma is right now, and if one doesn't understand this moment, one doesn't study Abhidhamma. And I think this is a good point. It's relevant to the discussion we had the other day about Paticca Samuppada, and it's relevant to when people think that the pariyatti is the studying of lots and lots of details, but forget about understanding what appears now. So the study of Abhidhamma is the study at this very moment of what appears. It might be useful to discuss this in more detail. Ajahn or Alberto or anyone else may have any points they would like to mention.
I couldn't hear very well because the voice is so very soft.
Can you hear me now, Ajahn?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you also a little bit softly. Can you hear me?
Yes, but your voice is very soft, very low. I couldn't hear well at all. I asked Kun Parasak just a minute. Kun Parasak, Kun Em.
Can you hear me clearly?
Good afternoon.
Hello, Jyotika.
Hello, Sarak and all.
Can you hear me clearly, Jyotika?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay.
It's better now, Kun Sarah.
Oh, much better, very loud and clear. Can you hear me now clearly, Ajahn?
Yes, yes.
Okay, I'll just repeat the good quote because some people also just joined us now. So I was listening to a recording and Ajahn was saying that people don't understand that studying Abhidhamma is right now. If one does not understand this moment, one does not study Abhidhamma. In other words, people think that Abhidhamma is in the book, it's in the details, it's in the numbers, it's in the text, but actually Abhidhamma is the reality that appears now. So the study of Abhidhamma means the understanding of just what appears now at this moment. So I thought it may be a good topic to discuss further.
If we just heard the word but not understand the truth of it, what is it and what does it mean? Can there be the understanding of anything? For example, right now, see, not many people think about it at all right now. And they can say, right now, something there, but what is it? For example, what is there now? Whatever is real is a Dhamma. So Dhamma is a reality which is there to be known. So we just heard the word Dhamma, and it's true, and it's real, and it's a reality. But where are they? Right now, are there any Dhamma, one by one at a time? For example, there is seeing right now. Who knows what seeing is? How come? to be seeing right now. It's there already. But without conditions, can there be anything arising and appearing now? It's just not happened out of the blue, just there. But the way it is conditioned, but who knows what condition is? That's why we learn to understand what is there. Because life, what is life? Where is life? Life exists in only a moment. Without a moment now, where is life and what is life? That's why anyone who say, I know life, what is it? Where is it? For example, is life this moment? Or this moment is not life? See, it can be known, it can be understood, the truth of birth and death and whatever arising and falling away in between birth and death. Right now, what is there? Death can come anytime, but who knows? And who understands what is it? What is birth and what is death? And what is there now? It's there so true, so it can be known what is there as it is. Absolute truth. What is seen is seen. What sees, sees. That's all. What is there that can be known now at moment of seeing? And without understanding each moment in life, seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, remembering, feeling, like and dislike, what is there? Is there in life by conditions? Does anyone make it arise? Impossible, because whatever is there has conditions for its arising and then fall away. Instantly, who knows? This moment is not previous moment at all. And who knows what would be next? Impossible to know because it's there already. That's why learning about birth and death and what is there in life, to understand the truth that it's not always there as it seems. It's so short. The moment of birth cannot be the next moment. And the moment before death cannot be the moment of death. Just one moment, so very quickly arising and falling away all the time from birth on and on until the end of life. And then it conditions next birth, next life again, like this life, exactly the same. Born to see, to hear, to think, to like, and then completely gone. And it's gone before death. Is that true? Where's the birth moment? Where's yesterday seeing? Can anyone find it? Is it still there or never to be found at all because it's completely gone? Just learn to understand life as just a very temporary moment, very short, on and on, unexpectedly. Just consider whether it's true, whether it's life. Can anyone arrange or make anything to arise at all? And how can life be not like one wishes to be? Happy, pleasant feeling all the time? What about painful feeling and unpleasant object which is heard or smelled or seen? Is this not life? If there's no understanding of this moment, can there be any moment of standing what we take for life? Or even what we think what life is? Can anyone say that life is not now? Life is not seeing, life is not hearing, but so very short life, in a moment only, and then gone, never to return at all. And since the truth is that it arises and falls away, can it be directly known or directly experienced to understand the truth? What is there which arises and what is there which falls away right now? If this moment does not arise, Can there be this moment? And as soon as it has a reason, it falls away. Is that not true? Because moment of seeing is not moment of hearing. They cannot arise together. One is sound and the other is visible object. They are different. How can they appear together? One at a time, at moment of hearing sound, there's no seeing, no experiencing of what is seen. But in truth, it arises and falls away in split seconds. What is left is only the shape and form and marks to be taken, to be remembered, to be known as what it is. But in truth, it's just the picture or the shape and form of whatever is there, be known by memory of the differences. So it's known as different thing, different people, and then gone. So what is there in life? Different moments, different realities. Which one can be taken for I? Because it's not there at all, as it has fallen away instantly, right now. Is that true? Or is it not true? Just learn to understand the truth, to be truthful to the truth, birth and death. After birth, there is seeing, hearing, smelling, remembering, present moment, and present moment. And there must be death. Everything's gone. Even the body now cannot move at all. It cannot condition hearing, seeing, smelling, thinking anymore. So what is there? The seeing is not the body. The hearing is not me or I or anyone. It's conditioned. And what is the truth of it? It's only the moment which arises to experience. So now there is seeing, there is hearing, there is thinking. It cannot be touched, it cannot be seen, because it doesn't have any shape and form at all. It's only a reality, no shape and form at all. But it arises just to experience. Is it true? It's now here. It's now seeing, no shape and form of seeing and hearing at all, because it's purely, absolutely reality which arises to experience an object. No selection by conditions, whether it arises to see, or it arises to hear, or it now arises to think, different ones. Not the same one at all. Each one arises and falls away. And how can what that arises and falls away, never to arise again, be something or someone? And this means it's the truth of what we say, Dhamma, reality. To be truthful to the word, reality, it's real. It's a reality. It has its characteristic to be known. That it's there, seeing is there, and hearing is there, and thinking is there, different ones. And this is what we call Dhamma, the reality, not anyone at all, not anything at all. Each has its own characteristic to be known. For example, sound is not smell, different one. What is true? Both arises and falls away, and with the object appearing at any time when there is moment of experiencing it, what we take for what it means by experiencing, it knows what is there. What is there is known or is experienced by the reality which arises to experience it. Who can stop the wind, the heat, or anything? They are there by conditions, different realities, different moments are conditioned to be such and such differently, never be the same at all. Years and years ago, just now, and a moment before, today is not yesterday, and not tomorrow. So the truth is that Dhamma or realities is conditioned to arise, to appear, and then gone. Unknowingly that it's not there anymore. The idea of it's there. My house, my pen, my friend, or anything. It's only thinking, but what is the truth? The absolute truth. Only that which is the object of experiencing. Only when it appears, it's true. And when it's not there, it's gone, never to arise again. Is this true? Just to understand the way it is. And we call whatever is rare, arising, appearing, and then gone, Dhamma, whatever is real. The absolute truth is that what we take for a pen, in truth, it's hard when it's touched. It's seen different color. See, only that is the truth. No matter what we take for something, a shoe, a pen, a ruler, or food, touch it. It's hard or soft, heat, hot or cold. See, only that. And taste, when we take it or taste it. But when it's there on the plate, what taste is there? It cannot appear because that's the moment of tasting it, a reality. One can experience an object, the other cannot experience anything. That's why there are two words. The reality which is there, but cannot experience anything. But it is soft or hard, sweet or bitter, different colors, different smell, cannot experience anything. Is there that reality in a day or in a day? What is touched, what is heard, what is seen, what is smelled are there. They cannot experience anything. So they are the reality which cannot experience. That's why we use the term rupa, Dhamma, for the reality which cannot experience anything at all. And what about now? There is something seen. See, the blind cannot see anything at all because no eyes as conditions for that which has to impinge on it, condition seeing right now, to experience only the object which impinges on the eye. See, everything is the unknown until we begin to hear the truth of it little by little and consider the word Buddha used, the term Dhamma. It experienced directly, thoroughly, deeply, the truth of what is there as it is. That's why after his enlightenment, he said, all Dhammas are so very subtle, very deep, but it can be known. It can, when there's moment of talking about it, thinking about it, beginning to understand it when it's there. So the word Dhamma is not just the word in a book, but that word represents the reality in a day appearing all the time, unknown, as it's not there after it has fallen away. Each moment in split seconds. That's why the arising and falling away of different realities succeedingly cannot be known just by taking it for something when they are together. But when it's broken up or down, what is there? Even the whole body, it can be cut. And what is there? Very finally, it's still the rupa, the reality, which cannot experience, which is hard or soft. Whereas the eye, the ear, the nail, my body. But when they are together, by the mark and sign, which is left because of the rapidity of the arising and falling away, take it for something permanent by shape and form. no matter through what sense though. Different color, one is the object of experiencing at a time. Otherwise, how can there be the idea of they are different? Even the moment of experiencing, it's just one color, and the other color, directly experienced, clear that they are different. But when they are together succeedingly all the time, there can be a rose with different color, just in a rose, only one rose, many different colors. Is this not true? Is this life? Just consider the truth. What is there? Whether it's true as it has been directly experienced by the enlightened one or anyone who develop right understanding to learn to understand the difference between what is there now, so many things, but in truth, just one moment of experiencing an object at a time, unknowingly, so rapidly, no idea about it. But it shows up in a day as the moment of feeling sad or enjoyment or hatred or ego, proud, pride, and so on, in a day. Where were they now? Just a moment ago, all gone. And this moment is also gone. Is that true? Without a moment to moment, how can there be moment of life from the beginning on and on up to the moment of death? If there are only one moment, not arising and falling away, it cannot be birth and death and different experiences in a day. Just understand it, nothing to be done, but understanding is different from no understanding, ignorance, thinking that life is permanent. Even there must be birth and death, but before that it's permanent until it's not permanent by death. But that is not truth, but it's not the truth of this moment. Each moment arises and falls away, and it takes for moment of birth and moment of seeing and moment of liking and moment of death and moment of birth, on and on and on, by conditions. And the truth of the conditions can be learned little by little to understand that actually what is there is complex. No understanding of what conditions what at all. Present or past conditions. If there is no experiencing of a reality like taste in a day or yesterday, how can there be that remembering of that taste today or after it has been tasted? Is this life not permanent? What is there is conditioned unexpectedly, not as one will, not as one like it to be. It's there already by conditions. And in truth, so many realities, different moments of the reality which experiences the object. For example, hatred is a reality when it's there. And attachment is another reality. They cannot be the same at all. Different realities, different function, different characteristics, and then gone. So the enlightened one, enlighten the truth, ultimately. That's why he taught about everything that can be known. And now it's there. Can it be known? Because it's there as object of that which experience. Hear it, the sound, different sound. see it, different objects, different colors. And feeling is not the same as memory, not the same as attachment, not the same as ignorance and unpleasant feeling, anger. What is that? Just in a moment and then fall away. Not only one, but only one can be object of understanding, because the reality which experiences an object can experience only one object at a time, also by conditions. That's why the more understanding of the truth of each reality can condition moment of understanding that actually what are there in life, any life, all lives, are only what we say Dhamma, different realities. What is real is Dhamma. It's different because it has different characteristic, appearing, function, too, and on and on. Otherwise, just live in life from life to life without any understanding of the truth of any moment at all. For example, right now, no understanding of that which sees. Is it there? Is it I? Because can the I see if there is I? But when there is seeing, it's seeing not I or anyone at all. It's only that which arises to see unexpectedly. What next moment will be, who knows? Can be death, or seeing, or hearing, or thinking, or by conditions. Always unexpectedly, because who knows what will be the next moment. But there are conditions ready to condition next moment after this moment. On and on and on. Very rapidly. How many moments now? Moment of seeing, moment of hearing, moment of thinking, moment of considering. Much more than that, because it arises in split seconds, in a second, of a second. Is that true? And
I was going to say, yes, it's very true. And I think it's very important, the point that whatever arises now is so very unexpected and not as one wishes or one tries to have it. And that's why, like we discussed last week, it's so useless to have expectations, because it just leads to more and more disappointment when actually what arises is unexpected. And as you were mentioning earlier, whatever appears now, whatever arises now is Dhamma. And because it's so very subtle, so very deep, difficult to understand, this is why it is Abhidhamma. And so the study of Dhamma, the study of Abhidhamma, is the understanding of the truth of life at this very moment. And the truth is that nothing can be done to make seeing arise or to stop it from arising. It arises by its conditions and is gone instantly, always unexpected. So I think it's very helpful for everyone to appreciate the study of Dhamma. The study of Abhidhamma has to be at this very moment, because life is just at this moment, not the study of what is written or what the details are, but at this very moment, what appears now. But there has to be a lot of hearing and considering to really appreciate at this point that what arises now is by conditions, no one there, nothing there at all. So these are all very good reminders. Jyotika, I don't know if you or anyone else has any comments you would like to add. And Nina, I'm glad that Carmen helped you join. And I don't know if there's anything from what has been said or any topic of your own you'd like to bring up today.
Yes, last time we discussed feeling lonely when it is so silent in the evening. We tend to feel lonely when we miss dear persons who died. And then I remembered what Ajahn said long ago to a friend who lost her husband, that she was also afraid to be alone at night. And she said, well, you are not alone. There's the word of the Buddha. The Buddha is with you. And then you are not lonely. But what did the Buddha say? To make us have confidence that we think it's my sorrow and my loneliness and the person that we are missing. But in fact, like Ajahn often says now, it is only Dhamma, and it arises and falls away, but we still cling and think that things are permanent, and that makes us very sad. But in fact, only a moment. And she says very often, is it true or not? It means we have to consider and not just repeat what we hear, but we have to consider the truth of this moment.
Yes, and I think that someone can feel very lonely in a party or a gathering or their relatives at Christmas, because it's a kind of dosa, a kind of aversion, a kind of not liking what appears now. So I think that when Ajahn mentioned about the word of the Buddha, I think it means that when there is a little understanding of the truth, that there is seeing, there is hearing, no matter on our own in the flat or in the party, then either the seeing or the hearing can be the partner of lobha, or it can be the partner of understanding. It can be a little understanding at that time, a little understanding that thinking just is a Dhamma too, just arises and falls away. So thinking about being alone in one's flat and so on, it's just thinking about this and that. But what about the understanding even at that time when one feels a bit unhappy? So the Buddha's teachings are the good friend, no matter where and when.
At the same time, I think we have to acknowledge that feeling lonely or missing people is an accumulated tendency, and some are more prone to those things than others. And there isn't actually any guarantee that the way one considers the Dhamma can mean less such accumulations arising. So we are subject to our accumulated tendencies, and they will always be there waiting for conditions to arise. But
just 1 minute.
we appreciate that
Okay.
this is just part of life, and the important thing is the understanding that's developed.
Sarah, you were saying that lonely is dosa with Tina and Nita, right? A lonely, feeling lonely.
It depends whether there's Tina and Mida, but definitely when there's feeling lonely or feeling I'm alone, there is unpleasant feeling. So there must be dosa at those moments, but it's conditioned already. It cannot be any other way. It has to be like that. But there can be understanding even at those moments. No one likes to have unpleasant feeling, but when it's conditioned, it's there, and it may be a lot or it may be a little, but it cannot be any other way. But there can be understanding right now, right at that time, because it's Dhamma, it's anatta. It's not my loneliness. It's not I that can change it. It's just a Dhamma, and then it's gone. It doesn't last. It seems I was lonely all evening on my own, but actually that's just a moment of thinking, and that moment of thinking is gone. In between, there are moments of pleasant feeling, moments of clinging to this and that, maybe moments of understanding. So the loneliness, the unhappy feeling is just for a moment and then gone. Nothing lasts at all, and none of it belongs to me. We think of my situation, being alone in the flat and so on, but everyone thinks about their different situation because of clinging to oneself. And without that clinging, there wouldn't be the unpleasant feeling. There wouldn't be the thoughts about, I'm so lonely.
So we should not try to change it, but just understand it as conditions.
If there's trying to change it, then it just is a condition for more unhappiness, because who can change it? Who can stop having unpleasant feeling? It's like that, and then it's gone. It doesn't belong to anyone. So it's useless to try to do anything, to try to change anything. And this is the point that we were discussing about the study of Dhamma. It means accepting and understanding what has been conditioned, no matter its joy, no matter its pleasant feeling, no matter its loneliness or unpleasant feeling. It has to be the way it is. It cannot be any other way. But I think it helps a lot to appreciate it's just for a moment and then gone, not belonging to anyone at all.
Sarah, what is the purpose of the texts of the Abhidhamma? Because the Buddha didn't teach. He didn't teach as a series of lists, as written down in the Abhidhamma. And yet, when we learn from Abhidhamma in daily life, it's extremely useful to learn that Abhidhamma. But he didn't actually teach like that, did he? So I'm just wondering how we are to use Abhidhamma, or when it wasn't actually taught by the Buddha. And I know Jonathan has said that you could say that the Abhidhamma is a distillation of what's in the sutta, which I think is very powerful. So Ajahn has been speaking, she spoke for 20 minutes. And if you took all of those words, the thinking, attachment, like, dislike, you have Abhidhamma. But nevertheless, the Buddha didn't teach like that, did he? He didn't teach like the words laid down in the Abhidhamma texts. So I was wondering what the purpose of those texts are and how we are to use them when he himself didn't teach like that.
I think the Buddha used different means taught in different ways at different times to different listeners. So there was the sutta way of teaching, the Abhidhamma text way of teaching, but whatever the way of teaching, whatever the discourse or the list or the details, the purpose was always for the understanding right now, the understanding of reality now, not for just memorizing and learning and repeating, or for learning the language or this or that, but for the understanding of Dhamma right now. And this is the true study of Abhidhamma at this moment, without the considering of various details, khandas, ayatanas, dhatus, the very strongly ingrained idea that I can do, that Nina and I were just referring to, cannot be uprooted. It's not enough just to read a few suttas, because that idea is so very deeply embedded. So there has to be the considering, the listening, the studying in different ways, but the purpose is always for understanding what appears now as Dhamma, an element, not self, no one there, just a reality which arises and falls away, not belonging to anyone at all. But
Ellen,
without,
Yeah.
continue. I thought you'd finished, Sarah. Please continue.
now I was just going to say, but without understanding clearly about the distinction between those realities which experience an object and those realities which don't, the rupas, it's impossible for the idea of self to be uprooted. So this is why there has to be the considering of what are different elements, what are different khandhas, what are different ayatanas. But the purpose is always back to this very moment for understanding now.
Ellen,
Thanks, Sundara.
no problem. I think, Ellen, we can say definitely that the Buddha did teach Abhidhamma. He taught Abhidhamma in the Tawatingsa heaven to his mother and to many other Dewa who were there. She had come from Tusita, which is a further heaven above, metaphorically speaking. So, it starts with Kusala Dhamma, Kusala Dhamma. It's not easy to read or to listen to, perhaps, but for the wise, they would understand. So I think we can definitely say the Buddha did teach Abhidhamma.
Right. Okay. I mean, if we take the first two sermons of the Buddha, all realities are anatta, for example. Unless you know what is meant by the term reality, it doesn't really mean any. It's nonsense, isn't it? Well, it's not nonsense, but you can't get what it means. So the Abhidhamma enumerates what is meant by reality, so it helps us to understand that second sermon. All realities are anatta. But when he actually taught it, people didn't know. How could they get in a few words what was meant by reality? Because it's
Okay, Alan, Abhidhamma are all Dhamma. If there's no Abhidhamma, how can be Sutta or Vinaya? If there's no Dhamma, no Sutta as well. So it has to come that Abhidhamma.
Funny, my picture is lost.
yes, it is this. What I'm saying is, it seems to me to be absolutely essential to have those texts, because if you haven't got them, especially perhaps in the olden days, perhaps they could understand that immediately, but today you hear the words all realities are anatta, you need to know what is meant by the term reality, and that's where the Abhidhamma comes in, because they're all enumerated. So when we have the idea of hand or foot, we know that's not Abhidhamma in the way that's meant. So it's kind of essential to have Abhidhamma to understand the sutta, but he didn't teach it from the very beginning like that. I mean, perhaps the answer is that they understood immediately what was meant by the word Dhamma without having to resource the enumeration of those realities, if you like.
I think we can say, Ellen, that that Abhidhamma is everywhere in the Dhamma, whether it's Vinaya, Sutanta, or Abhidhamma for that matter. So when we're talking about reality, that's why it's so important that we need to listen comprehensively and to sort of what we might call triangulate the Dhamma, look at it from many different perspectives, listening carefully from the wise person. Otherwise, it is so easy to misunderstand what is being said. But I believe from listening carefully, time and time and time again, considering again, the Dhamma can gradually be understood, but it's not something that happens quickly except for the exceptionally wise. And even for those people, like when the Buddha spoke to his mother, who was then born as a male, she understood, as did tens of thousands of other Dewa at that time. It might have sounded perhaps awkward to us today, and we wouldn't have even understood it, no doubt, at least at some level. So it's always going to depend on, our accumulations, and many other different types of variables. Otherwise, there will be misunderstanding. That's easy to happen because, as the Ajahn was alluding today, the Dhamma, and the Buddha spoke about, the Dhamma is subtle. So how it's understood will depend on many different factors. And if there's not that careful and ongoing consideration of what is being alluded to, and that can be misunderstood, it takes a long, excuse me, it takes a long, long time for us to begin to appreciate what the subtlety of Dhamma, and that doesn't happen overnight, no matter what word is used. It's just listening carefully in an ongoing way. And you're correct when you said the Buddha perhaps, when you talk about word reality, I'm just trying to consider what perhaps word we would use for that in Pali, but it's Dhamma. Dhamma is reality, and any aspect of Dhamma relates to that when it's considered carefully enough.
And the other point, Alan, you are puzzled by how the listeners of the early suttas would have understood terms like all Dhammas are anatta. We mustn't forget that they had accumulated a lot of understanding in previous lifetimes and were ready for enlightenment in that final lifetime. So it didn't take a lot for that previously accumulated understanding to be triggered in the last lifetime.
Yes, yeah, I can appreciate that. So we can use Abhidharma now to just help correct misunderstandings or help to understand the suttas. And it's interesting,
I think it's correct to say that without the Abhidhamma, we are not able to correctly understand the suttas. So whether we hear it from the good friend or read it in the book, it doesn't really matter. But there is material in the Abhidhamma that is difficult to identify within the suttas. And so it's a way of gaining information that is necessary for the suttas to be correctly understood.
Yes, so basically, without Abhidharma now, because we're not one of those super wise people at the Buddha's time, without the Abhidhamma, understanding the sutta is, well, it's an impossibility.
Well, it depends on one's level of accumulated understanding, I guess.
Yeah.
And so, yes, for us, it's an impossibility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, I think, when you look at the suttas like the Metta Sutta, that you can look at that from an Abhidharma perspective, in that if you look at the bottom, it says untroubled by having no enemies, no foes, so that when there is wholesome moment of consciousness such as kindness, there is peace at that moment. And so you could distill that, as you have said, down to a few lines of Abhidharma, the Metta Sutta. And even that's not given as a commandment, is it? Because he said, may all living beings live in peace, etc. So you could look at that from the Abhidharma, and then the Abhidharma becomes very powerful to help understand the depth of that sutta. Because I think we were discussing last week about having kindness towards people, but actually it's conditioned. Nobody can have it at will. It's not a commandment to have kindness, it's an impossibility. But the way that's worded, that sutta, it can be understood in terms of the Abhidharma, that you can
Yes,
distill
but
it to a few
I don't
lines.
know that it's helpful to be so clear cut between the Abhidhamma and the suttas, because there's a lot in the suttas that you could call Abhidhamma. For example, there's lots about the khandhas, the ayatanas, the dhatus, and so forth in the suttas, whole sections in different parts of the suttas. And it's true there is certain information in the Abhidhamma that is not easily traceable to sutta references, but there's a lot that is. So, and that's why Ajahn always emphasizes that it's not a question of Abhidhamma and suttas. It's all Dhamma, and it's just a question of its presentation, manner of presentation. That is the distinction between the two parts of the Tipitaka, or the three parts of the Tipitaka.
Right, so it's not like you have a lesson on Abhidhamma one day and a lesson on Sutta the other
Right.
day, but they
Right.
are combined
Yes,
into
yes.
the way you present. Yes.
Right. And one could learn everything from another, as I say, from another person without having access to the text of the suttas or the Abhidhamma. And what one learnt would be, a mixture of what's in the suttas and what's only found in the Abhidhamma. And there one wouldn't appreciate there was any distinction between what is being learned. As one hears the explanation, it's all just Dhamma.
No, like I think that what we've heard from Ajahn just previously was like that, because actually the Abhidhamma is there, but it's not mentioned as such. It's she's using words to explain about reality without specifically calling it the Abhidhamma.
Exactly.
Or
so
calling it,
going back over the years, so all those discussions one attended, there was no distinction being made. This is in the Abhidhamma, this is in the suttas, this is in the commentaries. It's just all there being as one part of the Dhamma.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I remember at the end of the Metta Sutta, it talks about clear vision, clear understanding, eradicating clinging to sense object, and how this leads to no more becoming. But what is clear understanding, clear vision, if there's no understanding of what dhammas are now, what realities are? How can there be any clear vision? So the point is always the development of understanding of Dhamma now, because only this can lead to clear understanding.
And the word Dharma, I mean, is used in many different ways, isn't it? Whereas the word Abhidhamma is much more specific, and the word Paramatta Dhamma is even more specific. So Dharma, it can mean virtue, or it can mean proceeding correctly, or it can mean the teachings. But Abhidhamma is much more specific. We are talking about Dharma with its own characteristic. And Paramatta Dhamma seems to be even more specific than the Abhidhamma, because it's like that is a reality, whereas Abhidhamma, I think, can refer to a whole load of realities, or would you just draw? So what I'm trying to say is that the word Dharma isn't clear cut, is it? It can mean lots of different things. The word Abhidhamma is much more specific.
I would say, Ellen, that all those terms, Dhamma, Abhidhamma, Paramatta Dhamma, they're all interrelated. I'm just trying to remember. In the Visuddhimagga, Dhamma is defined as Atanopanna Sabhavam Dharinti Ti Dhamma, which means that moreover, trying to get them head around it again. So, moreover, all these dhammas which have an intrinsic nature, all dhammas which cause to be their own reality, have have a characteristic, have an intrinsic characteristic, which relates to anatta, dukkha, anatta. So all dhammas, whether it be whatever aspect you look at it from, are tied up with anicca, dukkha, anatta, no matter how whatever way you look at it. So if you're talking about Dhamma, Abhidhamma, Paramattha Dhamma, they'll always come back to their innate characteristics, which are anicca, dukkha, and anatta. And then the Dhamma is just, all aspects of the Dhamma are fleshed out upon that. Everything that we hear is an elaboration of those ideas or those realities. I mean, they're ideas initially that the Buddha put forth, but from those ideas, they're all intimately bound up with anicca, dukkha, anatta. And the more that those concepts or as realities are understood, the clearer the Dhamma can become, at the different levels, whether pariyatti, patipatti, or pativedha.
Yes, yeah.
And Chan, would you like to have comment with Alan's question?
Yes, I think that there can be deeper considering about the truth. For example, very simple word to have clear understanding of the truth is Dhamma, Abhidhamma. Is Abhidhamma, Dhamma.
Yes.
So no difference at all. It depends on by what aspect we are talking about. For example, we don't say Kusala Abhidhamma and Kusala Dhamma. They are the same. But what is meant is that all dhammas are so very subtle. And the meaning of Abhidhamma is the subtlety of Dhamma. No matter by way of sutta or vinaya or Abhidhamma. Even in the Buddha's time, the group of monks separated into three groups. One were talking about Vinaya, the other Sutta, and the other Abhidhamma. But the truth is the truth. Dhamma is Dhamma. Nobody can change Dhamma. Nobody can change seeing to be hearing or sound to be visible object. They are all Dhamma in the absolute truth. They are the absolute truth. Deeper than just we take it for all are dhammas, but what is it? Not enough, because they are all abhidhamma to be learned to understand its truth, that it's very subtle. Nobody say kusala abhidhamma because it's the same, kusala dhamma or kusala dhamma, abhidhamma, because all dhammas are so subtle. But no need to say that kusala abhidhamma or akusala abhidhamma, because everyone understands that all dhammas are so very subtle by way of vinaya. That's why there is for most of the understanding of vinaya and sutta and abhidhamma by different ways. That's why understanding the Dhamma as it real, it doesn't mean that we talk about something not real, but we are talking about what is real. And in order to know that it's real or not, it's there now. So when it's there now, who knows the truth of it? Without hearing and considering the truth of that very moment, the object which appears right now, who knows that it's not person, it's not anything. It's not a shoe or a pencil, but it's just that which is seen. And in a moment, just one moment, it cannot be seen as something at all. What is seen is only that which has touched the eye sense, impinged on it, how short, how little it is, before it can become by way of shape and form to be taken for something. And that is the subtlety of each reality. Even hardness now, who knows that it's so subtle too? because it does not like we take from my finger or a pencil, I am touching or holding something at all. It's a reality as other reality. So even hardness is a Dhamma too. Whatever is rare is Dhamma, and whatever is rare is so very subtle. That's why another word to understand the truth of it, not just take it for granted that I know it or I understand it as something. Because in truth, what is there is beyond anyone's imagination at all. Thinking about just a moment of seeing, is it subtle? Not like now at all. And what is there is only that which has impinged on the ideas, conditioned the moment of seeing. And seeing is conditioned by other conditions as well, like karma and so on. We don't talk about it yet, but there are also very subtle conditions too. And imagine, beyond imagination, the moment of only one reality appears. Is that possible? Because the truth is that one moment of experiencing an object, only one object can be experienced. That's all. Not the whole body, not the whole world, not the car, not the house or the road or anything at all. Is it subtle? Is it true? When there is more considering about the truth of it, beginning to understand what is meant by Dhamma, which is Dhamma, very subtle. So all Dhammas are subtle. At moment of hardness just appears, they're seeing and hearing and thinking as well. So how can it be known clearer or appear well? Because it appears just one at a time, as it is. How subtle it is. Without hearing and considering, it's just the word for just remember, to be remembered as no I, no self, no one, no thing. But in truth, what is meant? Even that word, no one. Is it true? Saying is there. And if you think that something belongs to me, or even the pleasant moment, or sorrow, or anything, it seems like it's yours, but in truth, where is it now? Is it still there to be yours? In truth, it's gone forever, never to arise again. Is that true? Just consider the truth, whether what is true, to continue on, have more confidence of the truth, not just to be remembered that there is no self, no one, and nothing at all, because it does not appear as well as that yet. That's why beginning to have firm confidence, and this is the root to understand the truth little by little, firmly enrooted, parami of the Satya of Adhidana. It takes quite a long time with Viriya and Kanti to let go, nekama, even clinging with ignorance of that which is now appearing. And this moment can be moment of understanding how subtle it is, what appears now, and what's the truth of it in a moment, only one moment, at a moment only. So Dhamma is Abhidhamma, and Abhidhamma is Dhamma, because Abhidhamma is like just the quality of Dhamma, so very subtle. Abhidhamma, not only Abhi alone, but the Dhamma itself is subtle. So no matter we are talking about, it depends on how much understanding of the truth of it. For example, no one sees, it's the idea, or is it the moment of beginning to understand the truth of seeing until it cannot be taken for me or mine at all? Absolutely. At moment of enlightened the truth, Ariya Satya. So compare this moment to that moment. Reality now does not appear well, but it begins to appear well to Panya, right understanding, which understands just one reality at a time. And what is said for one reality is many moments of that which arises and falls away, enough to be known. Even touching hardness right now. It's not just we take it for, oh, I experience hardness, because there is seeing, hearing, smelling, thinking there. So how can that appear well? Is it subtle? Is it true? So we just use the word, a Buddha just used the word to explain the reality, the truth, the subtlety of what is there. That can be studied, to have confidence to the truth, to be truthful to the truth of what is there. As nobody can change it all, because actually there are different realities arising and falling away. It cannot be taken for I when there is right understanding. But when there is no understanding or not enough understanding, it's there I see right now. So just have confidence of the truth, to be truthful to the truth. Otherwise, the truth cannot be realized at all. Because it's there arising and falling away all the time, who knows? But the truth is the truth. Learning to understand just one characteristic of a reality, one moment at a time, to understand. But at moment of realizing the truth, it's only the nimitta of what is there. And what is meant by nimitta, not a moment. Many moments of a reality appears, and there are only 6 ways for whatever appears in life, no matter in what world. That is Abhidhamma, or we can say just Dhamma, but the truth is Abhidhamma. So very subtle. The characteristic of it is so subtle, not the word makes it subtle. So is Vinaya Dhamma, or is it Abhidhamma? Sutta, not Vinaya. Is it Dhamma, or is it Abhidhamma? All are Abhidhamma, or Dhammas must be so subtle.
Thank you.
Not just to believe, but to consider. To understand by now, the object does not appear well. What does it mean?
So to appear well, it's just one object. Nobody there, no thing there, just one reality
One nimitta of a
of a
reality.
reality. Yeah.
So it's
By
more
conditions. And unexpected.
beyond expectation.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, there cannot be the eradication of wrong understanding and ignorance of what is there now.
And it can only appear well when it's a moment, when it's direct understanding of the nimitta of the reality. In other words, a moment of satipatthana, when it's just the wise considering about visible object that appears now. It doesn't appear well because it's not direct understanding.
It was useful, I think, a couple of sessions ago when Ajahn was saying that it's satipatthana, it's not Vedana patana or Phassa patana. And going on from that, it's not somebody who can do something, Patana. It depends on sati, what the object is. I find that very useful, actually. Just so simple words, but actually it's highlighting the fact that there's no control over the moment of satipatthana. It depends on sati.
Sati with understanding.
Yes, yes.
With right
So sati is
understanding.
not understanding, but it is a condition for understanding, because without studying reality, that reality cannot be understood as it is. So there are two different realities there. Sati
So
is one.
satipatthana is the development of sati and sampajanya. They develop together. That's why it refers to both of them, sati sampajanya.
Right. So how do you define sampajanya? Clear
It's
comprehension.
panya, it's right understanding of reality.
Yes. So they go hand in hand.
They get developed together.
Yes. Yes.
And I think we have to be aware of having the idea of awareness leading to understanding, because as far as I understand it, there's not a case of pure awareness, then conditioning understanding. It's always the awareness that arises together with understanding for the satipatthana.
Yes. So they're conditioned simultaneously.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also that the satipatthana is conditioned by pariyatti understanding. If there's no understanding, it can't happen anyway. So
So
they're
like
friends.
now, sati can arise with any kusala, and when it's the beginning of understanding of realities, sati is there at those moments of pariyatti, but only when it is firm enough and only when the object appears well or directly understood can it be the sati that is satipatthana, but always with right understanding of the reality. And on your point before about the teaching of the various texts, and one can talk forever about, well, whether the Patisambhadamagga was really taught by the Buddha or Sariputta, and at what point it was given, and the same with various commentaries and the Vibhanga, whether it really dated back to the first council and so on and so on. But it doesn't help at all, because when there is confidence in what Dhamma is and the understanding, the developed understanding of what appears now, then no question, no doubt that the teaching about the truths, no matter in what form, is the Buddha's teachings, no matter whether it was said by this disciple or that disciple. It's all the Buddha Vachana. Whatever we read or hear or understand that is correct is the Buddha Vachana. And so I think that one appreciates that Abhidhamma is now, it's not a matter of how it was taught or what words were used, but it is just the teaching about Dhamma now,
I mean, it's
subtlety now.
let's to clarify that is it Abhidhamma, Sutta and all that, because the moment of understanding, you don't need to describe word and all that, but the moment of like that is important. Other thing is not important.
I think, I mean, why I've raised this is that there are many people who think that it's not necessary to learn Abhidhamma because the Buddha didn't teach it. And that's a massive problem, because even the word Dhamma isn't understood correctly. So that in the beginning, there has to be this clear understanding of what Dhamma is. And it has to, the Abhidhamma can be used to reference that. If you've got this idea, it's not necessary to study it at all. That can be very difficult to understand the meaning of the word Dhamma. Unless, of course, somebody understands Dhamma, like a Ajahn, like you can explain the meaning of the word Dhamma without using technical terms. But you understand that the text of Abhidhamma, you can express that.
I think the massive problem is the ignorance and clinging to the idea of self, because with the strong clinging to the idea of self, whatever one reads in the suttas will be with the idea of this person and that person and I and something there. And why would one want to hear or consider more about the truth that there are just dhammas arising and falling away? So this is why the point has to be not the historical analysis, but the understanding of what appears now. So there has to be that beginning of understanding, not just the book study, but beginning to appreciate that the seeing now is not in anyone's control. It arises by conditions and is gone instantly. The loneliness falls away immediately. It's not my unpleasant feeling. So it's only by considering and understanding more about what is true now that there can be more confidence in the Buddha's teachings, where in whatever form. Otherwise, there's always going to be doubt because of that ignorance and wrong understanding.
And some people find what's in the Abhidhamma is inconvenient to their interpretation of what the suttas mean. And so for that reason, they may say that, okay, it wasn't taught by the Buddha and therefore that's not necessary.
I'm not sure how they can know whether it was taught by the Buddha or not. I mean, it's obvious that he did teach it, whatever form it is in, or else where these ideas come from. And that's been proven to lead to understanding. And one of the things that I have noticed, for instance, in talking to monks, is that they tend to look at the Abhidhamma as being just a theoretical concepts rather than the reality, as Sarah just so beautifully explained. And this is a real problem where we have people who will claim the Buddha didn't write the Abhidhamma, or we have people who claim that the Abhidhamma is just theory. And that's why it's so important to get back to the real understanding of the moment. And this is, they've never been taught that. They've never been taught the understanding of the book understanding first. In any case, they've never been taught that. So they have all these different ideas. And they say, oh, Abhidhamma is this, Abhidhamma is that, without really without having any development of understanding and learning what understanding is in the first place. So.
I think too that Jonathan made a good point then, that, and he summed it up quite well, I thought, that it's just a lot of people see it as inconvenient from their perspective. And getting back to the point that you made there, Ellen, about people say this about Abhidhamma or this or that about Abhidhamma. Well, anybody can say anything, as John has said before, and it's up for anybody to investigate what other people say, be they bhikkhu or otherwise. So we always need to consider carefully what anybody says about the Dhamma, because ultimately it will be up to us in our understanding to carefully critique and to analyze what anybody says, whoever, just because they've been, and the Buddha himself said this in the Mahaparinibbana Sutta. There is a bhikkhu of 10, 20, 30, 40 years, says something about the Dhamma. The wise will consider carefully, does it align with what I have said? Is it true in relationship to what I have said? So it's so easy to go astray and to follow what somebody says about the Dhamma, but always, no matter what anybody says, we should consider, is it true in relationship to the Dhamma? Is it what we hear, does it add up? because if we don't, like in the Kalama Sutta, we always have to consider carefully ourselves. If we don't do that, then there will always be problems of some level or others, what people said. And this is just all, conceptual dynamics, but they're not in many ways, if they don't add up and if we don't consider carefully, there will always be problems of some level or other.
When the Buddha died, he didn't appoint anybody to be his successor in teaching Dharma, did he? He said it's the Dharma that's the successor, that his teachings are the successor, or perhaps.
In a way, you are right. He didn't directly nominate somebody, and as you so well said, let the Dhamma be your guide and let the Dhamma be your lamp. But in a way, he did indirectly appoint Mahakassapa to be his one who was to follow him. He was, because he gave the Buddha gave to Mahakassapa his robe, which was an indicator that he had deep trust and valued what Mahakassapa represented, and it was he who was initiated into calling the first council, because that fellow, or that bhikkhu, Subhadra, said some unfortunate things about the Dhamma and about the Buddha, and Kassapa realized that the Dhamma needs to be collated, it needs to be established well, for otherwise it will be lost quickly because of what foolish people say.
Right, so he was he was appointed to guard the teachings, I guess, then. From an individual critiquing Buddhism, it has to come down to whether those words represent the truth of this moment or not. That's essentially what it comes down to. Would you agree with that?
Yes, certainly, I would agree with that. We always have to, as Tanajan would remind us and others remind us continually, there has to be a relating of Dhamma to the present moment. If we don't do that, if that's not done, or if we don't do that, doesn't really matter how we express that, then Dhamma will fade, it will disappear, it will be lost. The Dhamma is not lost when there is understanding at any particular moment, at that moment, even if it's only a very shallow level of understanding. The Dhamma is there, it's available. As he said, ahipasiko, the Dhamma invites you to come and investigate, to come and see. So that availability, in a sense, is always there, no matter what anybody says. And anybody can say anything, after all, as has been said before.
Yeah. Thank you.
And Lee, last week at the end of the discussion, you were raising one or two questions and topics, and we ran out of time. I don't know if you would like to bring them up or discuss further. You've been very patient. We said we would continue a little bit. I think you were talking about the considering the truth naturally and letting go of the idea of self.
Yes, thank you. Actually, I thought my question was answered. Yes. So I have no further questions or related topics.
Do you have any comments on what we've been discussing today?
And actually, I had some other questions. Is that okay to bring it up?
Carry on.
Yes. Last time I read the survey of Paramatha Dhamma, and I read some paragraph said that related to the rupas, and it's it said that somehow when somebody speaks, there are rupas, special rupas that conditions by chitta, but with that alone, we cannot speak. But there are some sound base, like sound base rupa. I'm sorry, I don't have that at the moment, but I just yeah, wondering what is a sound base rupa, because it says that it's a kamaja rupa, but then in the kamaja rupa there's nothing like sound base. So I'm sorry, I need to look back at that. Yes.
So as you know, every rupa cannot arise alone. It has to arise in a group. So the voice intimation, the sound intimation rupa, the vachi vinyati, it has to arise with the 8 rupas that always arise together in every group. And there has to be at that moment the sound rupa that is uttered in that group. And I think the point you're referring to is that without the sound base conditioned by karma, which is part of the body sense, then no sound can be made. For example, someone who is mute, who cannot speak, even though there may be the intention to speak, but no sound can be uttered. So there has to be the sound basis condition also. So many different conditions. And the vachi vinyati that is conditioned by chitta with those other rupas, the vachi vinyati falls away instantly. It only lasts for one moment at the arising of the chitta, but the other rupas in the kalapa last for 17 chittas, as usual, for the equivalent of 17 chittas. So we can just see that the conditions are quite intricate, but without that particular rupa, the vachi vinyati, no sound can be uttered when one's speaking, like now, different from the sound of the waterfall or the tree outside, which isn't conditioned by chitta, but by temperature.
Yes, that's very intricate, and it confused me. For example, when you said that as a speech intimation, is a rupa, and it
Only your sound is not good.
is that okay now? Yes. Yes, that's one point I would like to repeat. That it's confusing and to me, because now I found it on the book, and it says the trichet of speech intimation, sound and lightness, etc. And that sounds arise in dependence on the vikara rupas at the rupa, which is the base of that sound. So the rupa that is a sound base is produced by karma. It says so, but when we check so there are 2 points, that I found confused. First is the sound-based rupa that in the book it says produced by karma, but when we check the rupa that conditions by karma, there's no sound base, for example. And the second, that is speech intimation. Speech intimations, as you said, only last one satna, one moment. But so how it can arise together with other rupas that last 17 moments. So yes, I find it a little confused, and I'm sorry I did not quite catch your last explanation. Yeah.
So usually, as you know, because you've studied a lot, all rupas last as long as the equivalent of 17
Yes.
citas,
Yes.
but there are a couple that are exceptions. And one of these exceptions is the Vachi Vinyati. Another is the Kaya Vinyati.
Yes.
They are conditioned by the chitta. So they arise in a kalapa together at the same moment, but they fall away immediately before the other rupas in that kalapa fall away.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah. But they're conditioned by the chitta at that first moment of chitta. So they arise, conditioned by chitta, arising with the other rupas, but they fall away
Before
instantly. Yes, yes. And there are rupas conditioned by the karma, all over the body. So the eye sense is conditioned by karma, the rupas of the arm are conditioned by karma, the body sense. So this is one that is conditioned by karma, part of the body sense that is all over the body. And without that rupa, that the sound cannot be uttered, just like seeing cannot see visible object without eye sense. But these are very intricate points, so I appreciate the questions. So when we talk about groups of rupas conditioned by chitta, it may be a group of 8 rupas. These are the 8 indivisible rupas, no kaya or vachi vinyati, no sound. Or it may be a group of 9 rupas conditioned by chitta. Then there are the 8 indivisibles and the kaya vinyati, those 9 rupas. Or it may be 10. So in that case, it's the vachi vinyati and the sound and the 8 indivisibles. And so we can go on 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So it's quite intricate, quite detailed, but it's daily life at each moment of speaking. So no one can directly experience the Vachi Vinyati, but it's there as condition for the sound to be spoken without Vachi Vinyati. It is the way, it is the means, the doorway for the sound that is spoken. So it just helps to understand that no one makes the sound happen. No one controls the sound that arises. It depends on the Vachi Vinyati. It depends on the sound base. It depends on the chitta at each moment. It depends on the Mahabhuta rupas, the primary rupas that condition the other rupas that arise together. So the point of studying these details is just to understand that this is daily life, different realities arising in different ways by different conditions, nothing in anyone's control at all. And these are dhammas which are Abhidhamma because they're very subtle, very intricate. Who but a Buddha could teach about the detail of Vachi Vinyati, when it arises, when it falls away,
Yes.
and all this intricate detail.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I understand those points that we must be back to now and consider Dhamma.
Yeah.
But actually, this life is like other, like we are facing situation when people question us. I was questioned sometime about Abhidhamma, and sometimes it's not. I still want to try to answer to them. So one of the questions was like that, because even when now you explain that there is self-based, but the question is still like because in the book it said that there's only 9 kinds of kamaja. So people question me what is the sound-based rupa, because it cannot be found on. He said that conditioned by produced by karma, but when we check the 9 kinds of Aja rupa, there's no sound-based. So actually, I found this because I got the Vietnamese version of the book, and it's translated the sound-based but to ear-based. So I thought it was a mistake, and that's why I want to check and maybe have better translation, because this is a book. So
I agree. It's a little bit confusing. And I think we have to consider these points and details for ourselves more often. Ajahn once told me that some other teachers come to ask her intricate details about the text because they want to give the correct answers to their students. But usually she won't answer these questions at all, because if there's not the understanding about reality now and the careful considering for oneself, it doesn't help just to give the answer so that one can teach the right answers to others. So one has to consider again and again what the meaning is, no matter what the translation given or no matter what we read in the text. Otherwise, it's easy to forget about what appears right now. So I appreciate your point, Anli.
thank you.
Just to clarify the context here, I think what Anli is referring to is that in the text of the appendix, there's a reference to sound arising in dependence on the Vikara rupas at the rupa which is the base of that sound. And then there's a footnote there which says that the rupa that is the sound base is produced by kamma. Speech intimation is an asabhava rupa. A certain change in the rupas produced by citta conditions the impact between the sound base and the element of solidity produced by citta. But specifically, the passage that says the rupa that is the sound base is produced by kamma. Whether there's something in the translation there that needs to be looked at, I don't know. Sorry, I can't say anything further, Anli.
Okay, thank you.
Maeve, did you want to bring anything up today or ask Ajahn anything?
We can't hear you. The mic. Oh,
Turn your mic on, please, Maeve.
oh, open your mic.
My apologies for that, for doing the opposite. Well, there has been something that's just kind of been hovering in my mind a little bit, and it's about Ajahn often says that it's necessary to know the characteristics of all realities, the realities that appear, and and not just to focus on any particular one. What I was wondering, though, was that given the limitations of the experience of any individual stream of consciousness, that for one reason or another, seeing may not be available, or we've just been talking about sound may not arise, etc. Plus a whole other range of conditions that mean that the full gamut of experience is very unlikely to be experienced except over many, many lifetimes. I mean, presumably the Buddha had knowledge of all realities that arise. I suppose what I was wondering was, given that limitation, is there anything that suggests that a certain understanding can be extrapolated from understanding the realities of a particular reality, the characteristics of a particular reality? I mean, over and above the fact that all realities rise and fall away, they are not self, etc. So I'm sorry if that's not particularly clear, because it hasn't really formed that clearly in my mind, but I was just wondering how understanding develops in the face of that huge task.
I think that not by all realities, actually what is meant by is any realities without selection. It doesn't mean that there has to be direct understanding of Vachivinyata or subtle rupas that are not apparent. It just means whatever appears, whatever can be understood now, like what is visible, what is sound, feeling, what is apparent, not all realities. It just means without selection.
Okay, that actually makes more sense, Sarah. And given that, does that suggest that there is some extrapolation from that understanding about the overall nature of realities?
I have heard Achan also in Dhamma in Thai. She's saying that all reality are not for knowing but for understanding. What not for knowing is like, oh, study that subject and all that is name and all that. You cannot select, you cannot know anything, and it's up to condition, right? So, but it meant to be understood by anatta, mean unexpected, unselection, and uncontrollable. It pops like no choosing.
And just to add further to that, Maeve, only what appears can be the object of understanding. And the Buddha didn't say that there is a need to go looking for things that don't appear in order to understand the full gamut of realities. And I think when you were asking your question, you talked about the full gamut of experiences, and I wasn't sure whether you were referring to experiences in life or just to realities.
Yeah,
but obviously, go on.
Just realities.
Yes, because one of the things that one learns in developing understanding is that regardless of the experience in life, as it were, the realities are the same realities: the seeing, the hearing, the visible object, thinking, dosa, etc. but only realities that appear can be the object of understanding. Of course, if understanding develops, then it's possible that more and more realities will become apparent. But we don't have to be concerned that the range of realities appearing is rather narrow, as it were, when compared to the full number of realities that there are, because, as I understand it, no one ever understands all the realities. Only a Buddha would do that. And for the rest of the world that develops understanding, enlightenment can come by virtue of what you call extrapolation, but that would only happen when understanding's developed to quite a high degree already, of course. Yeah.
Thank you, Jonathan. That is what I was getting at, actually. Yes.
And there's a passage that's often quoted about rupas, and it gives past and present and future and near and far and so on and so forth. This is another way of saying that all rupas, not only the one that's appearing at the present moment, but in the past also, and also in the future, that's a kind of extrapolation. When that level of understanding is reached, that is a kind of extrapolation.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Sukhinder, too.
Don't have much time left. Perhaps Ajahn would like to add a little more to your question as well.
I think that the beginning of understanding is a moment, understanding that actually no understanding of anything appearing at all. Is that right? We learn about the word of truth about it, but it's that the understanding of the truth at moment of what is there as it is. As it is, it's learned, it's heard, but it's not yet understanding it as it is, because there are many levels of understanding. If the intellectual understanding is not strong enough, how can it condition confidence of the truth? What is heard, whether it's true or not? This is the beginning of the development of confidence of the truth, so that it can be realized gradually, little by little, from understanding the truth of what is heard about it. Like now, what is there? There cannot be just only that which appears as the object, like the visible object, shape and form and sound and story and so on. But actually, life is in just one moment. Is that true? And what is that very moment different from other moment? And it keeps on, accumulates what is there as things and people, and have ignorance of whatever is there. No attention, no careful considering about the truth. Is it always there? No other moment? There is only one moment now, or one moment at a time. That's why whatever in life is there can be learned when there are words of truth about it, to condition moment of considering whether it's true or not. When it's true right then, when it's there now. That's why the idea of I was born and I will die and how long will I live and so on are only idea about what is there as people and things, situation, events and so on. But what is there so true in a moment? Without that one moment, can there be life like this? Non-stop moment of experiencing different experiences, seeing, hearing, thinking, sleeping, and so on. And what are there? It can be known because it's real and it's now appearing. That's why whatever is heard, there can be moment of considering whether it's true or not, because it agrees with the characteristic which now appears. For example, what is seen? In truth, only that which can be seen. And why that can be seen? Because it's there impinged on the eye base. The reality which can be seen, if it does not impinge on the eye base, it cannot be seen. So each moment is so true, but what about the understanding? Beginning from understanding that it's real, it's there, and it has its own characteristic, which is different. For example, that which sees, the word seeing represents the moment of that which sees arising in seeing. So seeing is only seeing, and it's gone after it sees. That's all. Hearing is hearing. No one there, nothing there. It hears, so it is a reality which arises to experience that object. Each word can be studied carefully, whether it's true or not, to understand the truth that it's not there anymore. But the truth does not appear as it is, really is. That's why the word does not appear well, whatever now appears. And what is the meaning of appear well? See, so deep. Even we talk about just understanding from the very beginning, appear well. Without understanding, can it appear well? It cannot appear well. So what does it mean well? Because there is right understanding of its truth. So it can appear as it is, one by one, little by little. And what is meant by well, when Panya understands more and more, it appears more and more and more well. Not as it is, like now at all, when there's no understanding of the truth at all. So the right understanding begins to develop, to be truthful to the truth, because from the very beginning, understanding that actually there's no understanding of anything in life at all. In order to begin to understand the truth, which is so very subtle, that's why just one word or one reality can be studied to have clear understanding, only clear understanding intellectually, because it's not directly experienced that which appears well as it is, as we have heard. That's why when Panya develops more, the meaning of appear well become clearer and clearer and better and better and better. Not just well like from the beginning, more than that, stage by stage, until the truth revealed to Panya, which can understand it. Understand, for example, hardness, touching. It seems like no different, no special at all. But in truth, it's just like any reality, like that which is smell or what is experienced to 5,000 ways or to any time, mind. It depends on what is said about how and when and why and such, to understand better and better, deeper and deeper, just to let go. Ignorance, enormous, eons and eons ago, to begin to understand that what is meant by appears well. And now when there's no understanding, how much it does not appear as it is so well, to the degree of right understanding, even directly. See, it's not directly to the moment when it arises in false way yet, but it begins to be aware little by little in order to be aware more direct from moment to moment, little by little, from intellectual understanding to the patipati and to the moment when it appears more well than before, and on and on and on. So even just one word can condition understanding better and deeper, little by little, to understand the truth, the Ariya Satya, to the degree that it can let go the idea of self and things from the absolute truth of each reality. And it begins now, little bit by little, to have confidence that what is there has to be studied, considered, careful, in order to understand a little better, clearer and clearer. But it's not as clear as when it is Pativeda, Vipassana. So each Vipassana, the reality appears not well as from the very beginning. When it's higher, it can understand the way it is just right now. It appears, but understanding is there. Letting go, ignorance, not understanding the truth of just one reality at a time. That's why learning to understand the word of truth, to consider whether it's true or not, and that is not I or anyone, but it is right understanding, quite different from ignorance, no understanding of what is there at all. So it takes quite a long time, but seeing the benefit, the value, the precious moment of understanding, different from the moment of no understanding of the truth of what is there at all. And the absolute truth is Dhamma, no one there at all, no thing there at all.
Thank you, Ajahn. When you describe it like that, it becomes a little clearer how understanding will just work its way, regardless of anything that is tried or maybe misunderstood, but just the tiny moments of understanding work their way. So thank you, Ajahn. I know you say it often,
Appreciate
but it is
very
valuable.
much your understanding, everyone's understanding. Sawadee-ka.
Swadika.
สวัสดีครับอาจารย์
กราบเท้าท่านอาจารย์
สวัสดีครับอาจารย์ครับ
กราบเท้าท่านอาจารย์ครับ
อนุโมทนากับคุณเซราคุณจร and everyone
Sawasdee Captain Ajahn. Thank you, everybody. See you next week.